long before the river roared in anger, before thunder split the sky, before a child learned what betrayal felt like, there was a house that still believed in peace. It stood at the edge of the village, not far from the river, clay walls, a thatched roof, and a small yard where life used to feel simple. Inside lived Kofi. Kofi was not a man of many words. He spoke through work, through the strength of his arms, through the patience in his eyes. Every morning he left early for the fields. Every evening he returned with tired hands and a grateful heart. And waiting for him was his world, his wife, Essie, and their baby girl, Abeni. Abeni was only a few months old, too young to speak, too young to understand the world she had entered, but old enough to recognize love. Whenever Kofi came home, she would stretch tiny hands toward him, her face lighting up as if she already knew his footsteps. Essie would smile and say, "Look at her, she knows you." Those moments made Kofi feel rich, even when his pockets were empty. But happiness is fragile, and in places where life is hard, jealousy waits patiently for joy to weaken. Esi's illness came quietly. At first, it was just a cough, then sleepless nights, then a weakness that grew day by day. The village healer tried everything: herbs, prayers, whispered words meant to chase sickness away. Nothing worked. One evening, as rain tapped softly on the roof, Essie held Kofi's hand tightly. "If anything happens to me," she whispered, "promise me you will protect her." Kofi shook his head violently. "Do not speak like that," he said, his voice cracking. But before the next full moon, Essie was gone. The village mourned. Drums fell silent. Women cried openly. Men lowered their heads. Kofi did not cry loudly. He sat by a small fire at night, holding Abeni against his chest, staring into nothing. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and fear crept into Kofi's heart, not fear of loneliness, but fear of failure. "How will I raise her alone?" he asked himself at night. "How will I protect her without a mother's care?" That fear opened the door. And through that door walked Naya. Naya arrived with beauty wrapped in calm words. She spoke softly, laughed gently, offered help without being asked. To the villagers, she seemed like an answer. "She will bring balance back to his home," they whispered. At first, she did. She cooked, cleaned, carried Abeni on her back while humming old songs. Kofi watched her, grateful, and told himself the house might heal. But kindness born from opportunity does not last. Abeni cried at night, not because she was spoiled, but because she was a baby who needed comfort. Each cry pierced Naya like an insult. "She cries too much," Naya complained one night. "Children should learn silence early." Kofi brushed it off. "She is just a baby," he said. "She misses her mother." Naya smiled. But inside her, something dark stirred. As weeks passed, Abeni began to resemble Essie more and more, the curve of her cheeks, the shape of her eyes. Every resemblance was a reminder. This child was not Naya's, and never would be. At night, while rocking Abeni, Naya found herself staring at the child's face longer than necessary, not with love, but with calculation. If she grows, Naya thought bitterly, she will take everything. The house, the land, the man, the future. Everything. Then the rainy season came. Clouds gathered earlier each day. The air felt heavy, expectant. Elders warned, "This season will be harsh. Secure your homes." On one such morning, Kofi prepared to travel to a neighboring village for urgent work. "I will return before dawn," he promised. Naya nodded. "I will watch the child," she said sweetly. As Kofi walked away, the sky darkened too fast. Wind whispered through the trees like something alive. And somewhere in the distance, the river began to rise. Inside the house, Abeni stirred. She opened her eyes and began to cry softly. Naya stood alone, listening. The cry grew louder. With every sound, Naya's chest tightened. "Enough," she muttered. Thunder rolled far away. The fire flickered. The wind slammed the door shut. Lightning flashed through the window, briefly illuminating Abeni's tear-streaked face. For a moment, Naya felt fear, not of the child, but of what her own thoughts had become. She stepped back, then forward, back again. The storm outside grew louder. And inside Naya's heart, a decision took shape. The night of the throw. The storm did not arrive all at once. At first, it whispered. Wind slid through cracks in the clay walls, carrying the smell of wet earth and distant water. A Benny cried, tired, confused, seeking comfort. Naya stared at the child, then at the door, then back at the child. No, she whispered to herself. I won't. Thunder rolled closer. A Benny cried louder. Something snapped. Naya wrapped the baby tight against her chest and stepped outside. Rain hit her face immediately, cold, sharp, punishing. The village path was empty. No lamps, no voices, only shadows bending under the wind. Each step forward felt wrong. Each step felt final. A voice inside her whispered, turn back. But another voice answered, if you turn back, you will never be free. Mud sucked at her feet. Her wrapper clung heavy with water. A Benny whimpered, sensing danger. Quiet, Naya hissed, adjusting her grip. Lightning flashed, revealing the river ahead, wide, dark, moving faster than it should. The wind howled like a warning. Naya slowed. She felt watched, as if the night itself had eyes. The river was close now. Not just flowing, roaring, angry, alive. A Benny lifted her head. Her eyes opened, large, wet, reflecting lightning. For a moment, Naya felt exposed, as if the child could see inside her. She's just a baby, Naya muttered, forcing herself forward. She reached the riverbank. The ground was slick, unstable. Water overflowed its edges, creeping toward the village. Naya's foot slipped. She nearly fell. A Benny cried out sharply. That sound cut through Naya's chest like a blade. This is madness, she thought. I can still go back. Thunder exploded overhead, shaking the ground. The river answered with a violent surge. Naya clenched her teeth. No, she whispered. I've come too far. She stepped closer. Cold water splashed her ankles. The river at night was nothing like the river by day. It twisted and folded like a living thing. Naya's arms trembled. A Benny shifted and pressed a tiny hand against Naya's chest. The warmth startled her. Don't touch me, Naya whispered harshly. A Benny responded the only way she knew. She reached out. Her small fingers wrapped around Naya's wrist. The grip was sudden, strong, desperate. Naya gasped. Rain made everything slippery, but the child held tight, like she believed the arms holding her would not betray her. Lightning flashed again. Their eyes met. Time slowed. A Benny was not screaming now, just staring. Fear was there, but also trust. Naya's breath shook violently. Let go, she whispered. The child did not. Her fingers tightened. They pressed into Naya's skin. A sharp pain shot up Naya's arm. Let go, Naya shouted. The river roared louder, as if encouraging her. Naya's thoughts raced. If I don't do it now, I never will. Her grip loosened, not all at once, but enough. A Benny's fingers slipped slightly. She gasped, small, fragile, and clutched harder, scraping Naya's skin. The pain was sharp, real. Naya screamed. She shook her arm violently. Once. Twice. A Benny's grip weakened. Lightning illuminated the final moment clearly. A Benny's eyes widened. Her mouth opened. A sound tried to escape. Then. She slipped. A Benny fell into the raging river. The water swallowed her instantly. Her cry disappeared beneath the roar. The river closed over her small body. Gone. Naya stood frozen. Her wrist burned where the child's fingers had been. Rain streamed down her face. Her breath came ragged. She stared into the water, waiting for a hand, a cry, a sign. Nothing came. Only movement, only sound. And somewhere beneath the surface, the river recorded everything. The lie. Naya forced herself to move. She staggered back from the bank like a sleepwalker, then stopped. Fear surged. No one had seen. The storm covered everything. A thought crept in, if no one knows, then it didn't happen. Survival replaced horror. Naya tore her wrapper, rubbed mud into her face, scraped her knees until they bled. Pain became useful. Pain could look like struggle. Then she practiced sobbing until it sounded real. When she reached the house, She collapsed outside the doorway, screaming. Neighbors' lamps flickered on, doors opened. What happened? People shouted through the rain. Naya clawed the ground and wailed. The baby! The river took the baby. When Kofi finally appeared through the storm, soaked and breathless, confusion turned to terror. Naya, what is happening? She looked up, eyes wide, voice breaking perfectly. She slipped. Naya sobbed. The ground was wet, I couldn't hold her. Kofi froze. His basket fell. He ran to the river screaming Abeni's name again and again. The storm answered. The river did not. When Kofi returned, his face was empty, like something inside him had cracked and fallen out. Naya lay beside him later, staring into darkness. He turned his back. He did not touch her. He did not speak. Her wrist burned hotter than before. When she closed her eyes, she saw small fingers, wide eyes, a silent plea. And the river, moving softly in the distance, as if breathing. 5 years passed. And the river did not forget. 5 seasons of rain came and went, washing the riverbanks again and again, but never washing away what had been done. Life in the village moved forward, children were born, fields were harvested, festivals returned. But in Kofi's house, something stayed broken. Kofi still worked, still provided, but the joy never returned. He avoided the river. Whenever his path led too close to the water, his chest tightened and he turned away. Naya, on the other hand, grew outwardly stronger. She controlled the household, spoke boldly, carried herself like a woman who could not be questioned. But peace never settled in her. On her right wrist, a thin scar remained, where tiny fingers had scraped her in the storm. When it rained, it burned. When thunder rolled, her hand trembled. No herbs helped, no oils erased it. At night, Naya dreamed of water. She dreamed of a baby gripping her wrist. She woke up sweating, hearing the river in her ears even when the night was quiet. Then, one morning, something strange happened. A fisherman downstream ran into the village shouting, "Come and see, the river has returned something." People gathered near the bank. Tangled in reeds was a small piece of cloth, faded but carefully stitched. Kofi arrived late. When he saw it, his breath caught. "My wife made this," he whispered. She stitched it herself. Whispers spread fast. The river gave nothing without reason. That night, Kofi could not sleep. He dreamed of Se standing by the river, silent, watching him. A few days later, Kofi went early to inspect his fields near the riverbank. Rain had softened the earth. The air smelled fresh. And there, near the water, sat a small child. A girl, about 5 years old. Barefoot, clothes worn, not playing, not crying. Just watching the river like she was waiting for it to speak. Kofi stopped. "Child, where are your parents?" The girl did not answer. "What is your name?" She looked up. And something twisted painfully in Kofi's chest. Those eyes. Deep eyes. Old eyes. Eyes that seemed to know him. "I don't know," she said softly. "I'm lost." Kofi looked around. No footprints. No searching voices. "I can't leave you here," he said gently. "Come with me." The girl followed him without a word. When Kofi brought her home, Naya was the first to see her. The moment their eyes met, Naya froze. Her breath caught. Those eyes were the same eyes that had stared up at her in the storm. Naya forced a smile. "Who is this?" "I found her by the river," Kofi replied. "She has no parents. She doesn't know her name." "Send her away," Naya said too quickly. "She could be cursed." Kofi frowned. "She is just a child." That night, Kofi laid a mat for the girl near the fire. The child slept peacefully. Naya did not. Her wrist burned. The roof dripped even when it wasn't leaking. In her mind, she heard water. Days passed. The child remained quiet, watching, listening. She learned the house without being taught. Where Naya kept keys. Where papers were hidden. How Naya's face changed at the sound of thunder. Kofi felt drawn to the child. Her presence softened something in him he thought was dead. He named her Ao, meaning joy. But the child did not smile at the name. One evening, as Kofi repaired a broken hoe outside, the child sat beside him. "Father, she said softly. Kofi froze. No one had called him that since a Benny. He turned slowly. Why did you call me that? The child's voice stayed calm. Do not ask questions inside this house, she said. Ask them where the river can hear. Kofi swallowed. How do you know my heart? The child didn't answer. And in that moment, thunder rumbled, even though the sky was clear. Naya grew restless. She noticed how Kofi looked at the child, how the villagers stared. At night, she heard dripping water when the roof was dry. Then, one night, Ao stood in the doorway and looked directly at Naya. You remember me, the child said. Naya's blood ran cold. I do not know you. The child tilted her head. But your hand remembers. Naya snapped, threw a bowl, screamed for Kofi. Kofi rushed in. What is happening? Send her away, Naya shouted. She is evil. Kofi looked at the child. The child met his gaze calmly. If you want peace, she said, do not send me away. Let the river speak. As the annual river gathering approached, strange things began. Fish floating dead near the banks. Drums cracking during practice. Children reporting whispers by the water. The elders grew uneasy. This year must be done properly. They warned. The river is restless. Kofi remembered the cloth, remembered the child's words. The night before the gathering, he dreamed again. A small hand reaching from the water, not to pull him down, but to guide him forward. At dawn, he made his decision. I will speak, he told himself. And the river waited. The day of the river gathering arrived too quietly. The sky was gray, heavy, unmoving. The air felt thick, like the village was holding its breath. Men arrived with stools and drums. Women followed with children holding their hands. Elders sat closest to the water, staffs resting on the ground. The river flowed wider than usual. Not violent. Not calm. Watchful. Kofi arrived late, walking slowly. Beside him walked the child. Whispers spread immediately. That is the river child. The one who came from the water. Naya followed behind them, face controlled, but inside her chest her heart raced. Her wrist throbbed under her wrapper. The chief stood and raised his staff. We are here because the river feeds us, protects us, and today we ask for peace. Offerings were brought, grains, fruits, carved wood. Then Kofi stepped forward with empty hands. The chief frowned gently. Kofi, where is your offering? Kofi swallowed, but before he could speak, the child stepped forward. I have something to give, she said. Her voice was small, but clear. The murmuring stopped. Children were not meant to speak here. The chief hesitated, then nodded. Speak. The child walked to the river's edge and stared at the water for a long moment. Then she turned back to the people. This river remembers, she said. It remembers hands, faces, nights. Thunder rolled far away. Naya's mouth went dry. Long ago, the child continued, a baby was brought to this place. She pointed to the exact curve of the bank. Kofi's breath caught. The night was cold, the child said. Rain heavy, wind strong. Thunder again, closer. She was not lost, the child said steadily. She was taken. A gasp rippled through the crowd. That is a lie, Naya shouted. She's just a child. The child turned her head slowly, eyes locking on Naya's. You know this place, she said. Your feet stood here. The chief's voice hardened. Kofi, what is this? Kofi's throat tightened. I lost my daughter here, he said, years ago. The crowd murmured louder. The child raised her sleeve. Then look, she said. On her small wrist was a faint mark, thin, pale, but visible. Naya screamed, then grabbed her own wrist without thinking. The scar there burned like fire. People saw it. Whispers turned sharp. The same mark, the same place. The chief stepped forward. Naya, why do you hold your arm? Naya shook violently. It's nothing. The child stepped closer. You remember my fingers, she said softly. They were small, but they held tight. Naya's breathing broke. No. Wind picked up. Sand blew across the bank. Water stirred. You told yourself the storm would hide your hands. The child continued, that the river would forget. Lightning flashed. The river surged, splashing the bank. But the river saw, the child said, and the river kept me. Silence fell like a stone. The chief lifted his staff. Naya, did you bring harm to a child? Naya collapsed. She sobbed, words spilling out like blood. I didn't mean to. I was jealous. I was afraid. The crowd erupted. Kofi dropped to his knees, shaking. My child. The child turned to him. Yes, father, she said gently. Thunder rolled again. The chief lowered his staff slowly. The river has heard the truth, he said. Now, we wait. Dark clouds gathered. Rain began to fall. Deliberately. And the river began to rise. The rain did not fall all at once. At first, it tapped the sand like fingers knocking. Then the wind changed. It rushed down sharp and cold, cutting through cloth and skin. The elders exchanged uneasy looks. This was not part of the ceremony. Naya knelt in the mud, sobbing. I confessed. What more do you want from me? No one touched her. No one comforted her. Even Kofi did not move. The child stood near the river, still, quiet, unafraid. Thunder cracked overhead, close enough to shake the ground. Children screamed. Women pulled their wrappers tight. The chief raised his staff. Everyone remained calm. But calm was already gone. The river's surface darkened. The steady flow turned restless, swirling near the point the child had indicated. Water crept closer to the gathering. Slow. Intentional. This is not normal, an elder whispered. Lightning flashed. For a brief moment the river glowed silver, and in that light the villagers saw footprints in the wet sand. Fresh footprints. Leading toward the water. Stopping at the edge. Right where the baby had fallen years ago. A cry rose from the people. The river is showing it. It remembers. Naya crawled backward, screaming, clutching her wrist as if it were on fire. A wave surged forward, knocking over stools and offerings. People scattered in panic. Kofi, get back. Kofi staggered away from the edge, eyes locked on the water. My daughter, he whispered. The child remained still. And the water stopped just short of her feet, as if it recognized her. As if it would not touch her. Naya scrambled up and ran. Away from the river. Away from the people. Her feet slipped. She fell, crying out. Thunder roared again. Rain poured in sheets. The sky turned black. Naya, the chief shouted. Come back. But she ran blindly, pushing through bodies, knocking baskets aside. I won't die here, she screamed. I won't. Behind her, the river surged higher. Water flooded the ground where elders had sat. The ceremony was gone. Only chaos remained. Then the child moved. She stepped to the river's edge and raised her hand, not in anger, but in command. Enough, she said quietly. The river paused. For one terrifying heartbeat, everything seemed to freeze, wind, rain, voices. Then the child's gaze fixed on Naya. You ran from the truth, she said, calm but heavy. You ran from the river. Naya stumbled near the bank. Mud trapped her foot. She screamed, clawing the earth. Please. Her eyes met the child's. For the first time, true fear filled Naya, not fear of punishment, but fear of memory. Fear of that night she thought no one saw. Lightning split the sky. The river surged violently, crashing against the bank. Naya screamed as water knocked her backward. She slid closer to the edge, mud and rain pulling her down. Hands reached out from the crowd. But the ground gave way. Naya screamed once, long, raw, and fell into the raging water. The river swallowed her sound. For a moment, there was only roar. Naya fought, arms flailing, lungs burning, and in the space between breath and silence, she remembered. Another storm. Another small body slipping from her hands. Tiny fingers gripping her wrist. The silent plea in those eyes. Please. Now the river held Naya the same way. Unyielding. Unforgiving. A final wave crashed over her head. Her strength faded. Her screams became bubbles. Then, nothing. The river roared once more. And then, slowly, it calmed. The rain softened. Thunder rolled farther away. Water retreated back into its banks. Inch by inch, as if it had finished speaking. The villagers stood in stunned silence. No one cheered. No one celebrated. Fear hung heavy in the air. The chief lowered his staff. "The river has judged," he said quietly, "and the river has finished." Kofi fell to his knees, shaking with sobs he had held back for years. "My child." The child walked to him and placed a small hand on his shoulder. "It is over, father," she said gently. The river returned what it took, from both sides. Kofi pulled her into his arms and wept, not tears of pain, but tears of release. By morning, the storm was gone. The sun rose softly. Birds returned. The river flowed peacefully, reflecting the sky like a mirror. Life moved on. But the story did not fade. Because the river had taught the village a lesson they would pass down for generations. That truth can be buried, but never drowned. That cruelty leaves a mark, even when hidden by storms. And karma does not rush. It waits. Like a river, watching, remembering. And when the time comes, it returns everything.